Are people aware of modern monetary theory? I guess a lot of people are, but a lot of people are not. Um, and it's wild how you look in the media and in government and just everywhere that people are talking about policy, about macroeconomics. Just most people are just talking about it in just a crazy mixed up way. And here's what I mean by that. Uh, what MMT says, no news to those who already are on top of this, is that the government is where money comes from. You know, the United States government prints dollars, and so it has no worry that it's ever not going to have enough dollars to afford to do whatever it wants. Hey, yeah. Uh, it can spend all the money that it needs to spend. And the limitation on that is if it starts to try to buy so much stuff that there's just not more stuff to buy. You know, the government keeps buying cars until the factories are running and they're building more cars and they keep buying them and there's just not enough to go around. Then the prices of those things will rise. Or if they spend so much money into the economy that people, you know, their employees who are getting money through these programs similarly are spending so much money that prices start to rise and you start to have inflation. Um, and you know, so that limitation, as opposed to the one that people think exists with like, oh, we have to tax money to spend or we have to borrow money, is just a totally different thing. Um, and so, you know, when people hear this, they're usually like, printing money to fund spending, we're going to turn into insert country with hyperinflation here. Venezuela, Weimar, Germany, whatever. Zimbabwe, perhaps. Um, and it's just not a serious concern. You know, the way that you get these kinds of hyperinflation is when you need a huge amount of imports or owe a lot of money in currencies that are not your own. Um, you know, there's just nothing like that to worry about in a country like the United States that just wants to have the government spend a bit extra money. And economists that I've heard talk about this, it's like 2 or 3 trillion extra dollars you could probably spend into the economy just in the current system, and wouldn't increase inflation all that much. That's per year, by the way. Wouldn't increase inflation all that much. And just think about what you could do with that. I mean, that would increase the government budget by like half again. The amount of resources that could mobilize in our economy would be huge. Um, and that would be the point, of course, that we have people who are unemployed. We have capital that is unemployed. Interest rates are low. There's just productive capacity lying around doing nothing. Uh, and the idea that we can't mobilize that because we can't afford that is just crazy. Uh, and so we can just print enough money to mobilize those resources, get them to work. There's no inflationary pressure where it's going to spiral out of control because that's just the amount that you'll be doing, you know, that whatever extra it takes to mobilize that slack in the economy. And it just solves all of our problems. I mean, so much of the difficulties in the United States these days are just that we have a slack labor market that, you know, there's just not that much demand for labor, full stop. And it depends on what part of the labor market you're in. You know, if you're a programmer, you're much better off than if you're somebody who has like, you know, experience working at a factory in the Midwest or whatever. But, you know, when you have really good labor markets, people train new workers to do jobs, you know, because they really need somebody to do that job. They're expanding production and they need to fucking hire people. Um, and so we're just so incredibly far from that. And we could just solve that. We could just print the money, employ enough people, um, and then it would have a spillover effect into the private sector as wages would go up to, you know, as they would outcompete these government jobs that we had created. Yeah. So, modern monetary theory, the too long, didn't listen version. We can print a lot of money and there won't be that much consequences. We can use that to fund government spending. That'll solve all of our society's problems. Spread the word.